Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right, we're talking about No Country for Old Men. No Country for Old Men, released in 2007, written and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen, based on the novel of the same name by Cormac McCarthy, often received as a classic movie. So let's just jump right into 10 essential aspects of a movie. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? Yes. One thing I enjoyed about the plot of this movie was the simplicity of it. You knew as an audience member in the background there was a lot more going on, but instead the movie was very focused on the main characters, and I think it allowed for smooth storytelling. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? I don't think the movie really has that interesting of a premise. I think the movie was watched by a lot of people for a lot of other aspects. I don't think the story is super unique and is what drew everybody to have to watch the movie. Third is theme. What message or truth is the movie trying to convey? Now, I don't think the directors had a particular message or theme that they were trying to convey. I think there's a lot of ambiguity in this movie on purpose so that audience members would derive their own meaning to why characters did what they did or scenes were shot the way they were shot. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversations? The conversations in this movie are kind of weird. The way characters talk to each other is almost like in riddles. It doesn't feel like anyone is direct with one another, and it just feels odd. I'm sure it was done on purpose, but there isn't many conversations that felt really natural in this movie. They all just felt kind of cryptic and like somebody was trying to convey a message, but they didn't want to just say it straight up. Fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? There's a lot of really good acting in this film. However, Javier Bardem, who plays Anton, is a star. He does a really good job here. I think he is helped by the fact that the character is very interesting. There's not a lot to know about him, so you want to know more. But whenever he is in a scene, he is the star of the show. He is the one you want more of in the movie, and to me, that is a sign of some really good acting. 6 is cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? One thing I really appreciated about this movie was the action sequences. There was a lot of blood and gore, but not extensive. It felt very real. It was convincing. That is great. It really pulls me into the movie, allows me to feel even more sympathy for the characters because it feels like a real story is being told and these characters are real. Another thing I really enjoyed was how clever each character was. It wasn't just a simple find this guy and kill him. They both had to be creative in ways that I probably would have never thought of, that a lot of people probably wouldn't have thought of. They were very innovative and used different products I would have never thought to use. I really enjoyed it. It allowed for each scene to be very interesting, even though it could have been very boring. 7th is editing. This is all about the pace of the movie. The movie is about 2 hours and 2 minutes. I think that's actually a really good length for this kind of film. I really enjoyed the beginning pace of the movie. It started right into the story. It didn't put a lot of fluff into the beginning. It had a story to tell and it got right to it. I enjoyed that. However, I do think the ending felt a little rushed. It felt like they kind of closed stories very quickly. I could have enjoyed maybe even a little bit of a longer film with somewhat of more of an explaining of an ending, but I'm sure they did that on purpose. 8th is soundtrack. Now, there is no soundtrack in this film. There's no music at all, but it really didn't need it. It was an intense film, but not one with a lot of action that needed music. In fact, I think the silence did a lot of good for this movie, allowing you to really dive into the movie and not feel pulled out. Even though music doesn't always pull you out, this one did a real good job of not using it and using silence to its advantage. 9th is directing. Now, this is kind of a summary of all the previous categories. I feel the director is in charge of all those. They have the final say. They're the ones that need to guide them and put them together to make a cohesive movie. Now, the Coen brothers had directed a lot of movies before this one. This was their 12th movie. Before this one, they had directed Blood Sample, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, The Headseeker Proxy, Fargo, The Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, The Man Who Wasn't There, Intolerable Cruelty, The Lady Killers, and then No Country for Old Men. I have not seen practically any of those films. I have seen The Big Lebowski, and based on that film, this film is pretty much on par. This is a great movie. I think they are good directors. They are very unique. They know how to use film in an interesting way, and I think they did a great job with this movie. 10th is Time. Does it stand the test of time? From the making of this video, this movie is 17 years old. And I feel as though it has stood the test of time, but not strong. It's a really great movie. I think it came out and had positive reviews, but with time, it has kind of mellowed out. I don't feel like people talk about this movie that much anymore. I feel as though the only reason it really stood the test of time was the character of Anton. It was a really interesting, compelling character, and that's what's kind of propelled it to keep popularity. Now for the review section. For Rotten Tomatoes critics, they give it a 93%. Rotten Tomatoes audience gives it an 86%, and IMDb gives it an 82%. I think I am more along the lines of the Rotten Tomatoes audience on an 86%. This is a really good film. I just feel it is missing an entertainment factor that would put it above the 90%, so I feel confident putting it around that B+ area. Now for the rankings. For 2007, the entertainment side, it's going to be number 1 over The Mist. They're fairly similar on entertainment. The only reason I think I would go to No Country for Old Men before The Mist is the acting is just better, and to see that character Anton, one more time. For cinematography, it's going to go number 1 over The Mist. It just represents film much better. The actors are better. The story is better. The characters are deeper. It just does a better job. For the decade of the 2000s, it's going to be the exact same just because I have not reviewed a movie outside of those two in the 2000s. For all time on the entertainment side, I'm actually going to put it second below Toy Story and above The Mist. Toy Story is just a movie that was made for entertainment. It doesn't really compete with Toy Story. It's a lot easier of a watch, not as heavy. But I will watch No Country for Old Men again. The acting is very good. For cinematography on all time, I'm actually going to put it number 1 over Civil War. I think Civil War is good cinematically. I just don't think it'll stand time, and that is kind of a hindrance against it. This movie absolutely has stood time better than I think Civil War will, which gives it the up for me. That's all I've got for No Country for Old Men. Please comment and let me know what you want me to review next. Otherwise, I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.